I know we're going to talk about a lot more real estate investments, but boy, you got to diversify your portfolio, and I would definitely be getting to know Verde Capital Management and their folks, and rely on them for your wealth planning and retirement planning objectives, because that's a critical thing. People wait too long. That's one of the things we're going to talk about today, is sort of how everyone starts to play catch up because they get to mid-50s, late 50s, and they really find they weren't planning properly. If you can get ahead of that curve, and especially with the volatility in the market, boy, you'll have an advantage, and really it's needed more so than it ever has been to have a financial plan in place and to really be intentional about what you're doing there. So Verde seems to be just a great group of people, and wow, what a facility. I'm still shocked that I walked around. They gave me a tour when we first got here, and incredible. What a meeting spaces that they have. Hey, Mike, you said this was going to be shocking. I was really shocked. So cool. So, and these microphones are just for the recording, guys. So I know you're not.
I'm already very loud. I'm not Tony loud, but I'm loud enough to where you guys can hear me. But we're just trying to project this audio, so I'm not trying to just act cool with a microphone. Rob's got the cool.
We're gonna have him sing us a song here in a minute.
I'm going to be singing here in a second, but one of the things I wanted to pop in before we dive into the numbers and all the fun strategies that we're going to do is that Tony kept hitting on something about the center of influences and people sharing you. So if there is anybody that I don't know in this room, you guys were invited from somebody who I trust. You were invited from Vlad, who I deeply trust, right? Dan, we know you came in all the way from Chicago. And Stephanie, thank you for all the people that you brought. Randy, you came through Cindy and Carl, Steve G, Ron. But my point is that even though we don't know everybody in the room, we wanted to get to know you because the person who invited you vouched and said, hey, you would love this person. They would love what you're bringing to the table. So we appreciate all of you being here. So before we start diving into the numbers, I know some of you have seen this before. Really, we just want to kind of talk about what mortgage planning is, and that's what Rob and I specialize in. And about Rob before me, and Rob is definitely a mentor of mine. And over the last year, we've been working together and finally joined forces under American Financial Network, but under Rob's division, Landmark Mortgage Planners, hence the name Mortgage Planning. But really that's always looking at various strategies to see. There's no one size fits all for a client. There's no cookie cutter solution. It's not always about, the lowest rate is not always the best strategy. If I'm going to go sell my house in a year, I'm not going to go pay points to get the lowest rate. I'll never recoup that. So it's going to be a lot of strategy. We are going to talk about strategic equity and a little bit. Rob's been doing this or at least teaching this concept since 2005. We met in 2016-ish. Rob was Scotsman, top of the top producer in the country. I was just a scrub. And then we did hit it off. And then when I saw him at AFN, we had joined forces or worked together to a point where it made sense to join forces. Stephanie, you've been to this class multiple times, and I appreciate it. But the first time that we sat down in this class, Stephanie and I were able to put together 17 prospects. And it wasn't, not saying all of them closed. We did close 9 of them, but she put 17 opportunities on the table from one meeting. So as we're going through this class, you may start to think of clients and, top of mind or whatever it may be, just write them down. And we will, because I do got to run through some of this stuff. You guys will put our numbers on there after, and we're willing to obviously sit down and talk with anybody after. So, Rob, you want to get started with the debt class?
Sure. So basically, we always start here because there is a retirement crisis in our country, and a lot of it's in regards to the debt and the spending that we're putting out and taxation. And so, with the spending, it's spiraled out of control. They say $33 trillion, but the unfunded liabilities, when you add Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, is pushing $194 trillion. So it's so far out of control. Like, obviously, if we're a company with this type of a balance sheet, we're bankrupt. And that's a bad situation to be in. So a lot of the vehicles that people are putting their money into, qualified plans in particular, they call those deferred tax programs, right? We pay taxes in the future on it. We forget what those taxes could be, and it could be a lot higher than you're deferring at, and that's where the math gets really scary. But yeah, everything that we do from a mortgage planning standpoint really has more of a retirement, long-term wealth strategy built into it. It's not just, hey, that you want a 20% down and you want the 15-year mortgage. We're going to look at options and maybe take the longer amortization, a little less money down, put money into real estate or other investments so that you have more wealth 10, 15, 20, 25 years down the road. I wrote down something here, and it just said, if some of the things that you had thought to be true about money ended up not to be true, when would you want to know? And that's a question that we talk about in the Circle of Wealth. It's another community that I network in. But it's scary that a lot of the ways that people approach money, investing, real estate, paying off mortgages because their grandparents said that you should, the rules of money have changed like numerous times. And so to sit there and pay off a mortgage when you're not saving properly for your retirement, you got to be very careful, and you can't just go from the hip and what you think is right or what somebody had told you, and you've never really explored the math behind it. And that's and so then for you as a realtor, I know that having tax and investment conversations may seem a little bit uncomfortable, but it's funny that Tony said this, and I had written, you have the right to help people with planning their wealth. It's so much more than the square feet of a home or a neighborhood. And that's really what we're helping people. They're getting into the largest debt of their life. We get them the mortgage. We want to figure out the most efficient way to not only help them get out of debt, but to have the greatest amount of wealth by the time they do so. And that doesn't always mean paying a mortgage of extra payments. And a lot of times that means diversifying the portfolio, taking cash buyers and having them maybe take a small mortgage and keeping some of those dollars for the down payment on a couple investment properties, maybe some multifamily properties. We see a huge surge in just Florida real estate, right? Everybody that's buying cash right now, we're converting it with the realtor. We're teaching them to ask specific questions, like something basic like, have you considered cash flow properties as part of your investment strategy or your retirement planning strategy, or diversifying into real estate as just a little bit. You don't have to dive off the deep end and go into major investments, but maybe you buy 1, 2, 3 properties knowing that extra $100,000 down, instead of on the mortgage, it's going to save you $650 a month. You pay the extra $650 a month. Now you have two $50,000 down payments for two $250,000 rental properties. And you see what that looks like in 15 years from now. And that's a $500,000 extra into the retirement plan. And you'll see here in a minute, that's needed. So
and just to piggyback off of that, we're not just doing this, right, because it's, we just want to sell more homes or we want to write more mortgages. One of the things Rob says all the time, which I love, is that if we're doing it only for the money, it's never going to be blessed. But if we're doing it because it's in the best interest of the client, yes, we will sell more homes. Yes, we will write more loans, but it's starting with the integrity piece and really putting our clients' needs before our own.
So you're an advisor. Like we say, you have the right to be an advisor. You're a wealth planner. You're helping people with real estate, and that's an advisory role. It says here that to be the best, you have to know more than just the basics. So many people in the past always said, well, it's the lender's responsibility. We'll go in and talk about just how to structure a deal, what the maximum seller paid closing costs and conventional FHA, VA, and how those differ, and should the realtor know that information? And I think the answer is absolutely yes. Like if you're trying to structure offers and deals, you need to know those things. And just like this, how the down payment or how cash only, we'll win bids with cash and then extract the money using Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac delayed financing provisions, where we can take very easily money back out of that equity, so it's not sitting there gone forever, right? And we take that back out and put it in other places. So, all right, where are we going next, Mike? You want to look at taxes? Oh boy.
Let's quickly go through tax history. So before he jumps into that, if you've been to the class, don't answer. But if it's your first time here, would you say taxes are low right now, or are they high right now? High, right? Nobody likes paying the taxes. When Rob showed me this chart, I didn't realize, and he pointed it out to me, that we are in some of the lowest tax brackets that we've ever been in the history of our country. I mean, Rob can kind of hover over these things, but we've seen taxes as high as 94%. About a 15-year stretch, taxes were not below 70%. And I always go through, you want to go 19?
This is marginal income, highest marginal income tax brackets, guys. So
you want to flip to 41?
19, you like that one.
That's
19.
my favorite one.
So
in 19, you got it? All right. So in 1941, this is when Ronald Reagan was making movies before he got into politics. I was not alive back then, but it's a great visual to understand. Well, anybody would pay tax. I don't know who was making $5 million a year in 1941, maybe a couple families, right? But what they did the following year, they said, all right, anything over $5 million in the highest federal tax bracket, we're paying 81%. If we fast forward 1 year, they not only did they increase the tax bracket, they decreased the threshold from 5 million to 200,000. So Reagan would only make 2 full-fledged movies per year, because if he made a third one, he'd pay over, because he made 100,000 a movie. So if he made a third one, he would actually make nothing, because he would pay 88% in these taxes plus 12% to the state of California. So he would just stop at those 2 movies. So I like to portray that. There's a bunch of other things on here, but just to know that it can be done. And you know, what a lot of economists and some of the people we follow, Vlad, you follow them as well, David McKnight, Don Blanton, some of the top CPAs, financial advisors in the country, what their thought process is that because of that 194 trillion number that we saw, those are commitments that we made, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. But if the only way to pay those, and you know, there's some difference of opinions, but what all of those economists said is we've got to do 2 things, or a combination. One is cut spending. I think cut spending in half. I think we're way past that. The other thing is to double taxes. So doubling taxes sounds crazy until we look at and let's just say it didn't double. Rob, what does it look like if taxes just went to historic averages?
Just today even, and there's a joke we always say, when's $1 million not $1 million? It's when it's in your 401k, because this taxation of deferral of taxes, that's kicking the can down the road, right? You have to pay the tax. It's just a matter of when. You're gonna pay that in retirement, and it's called, anybody know what it's called when you have to start taking the money out of these qualified accounts? What that's called, or when you have to start?
Close.
Yeah, RMD, right? A required minimum distribution. And at 71 years old, you have to start pulling your money out because Uncle Sam wants their taxes. That's literally the only reason you have to start taking it out. Same reason they penalize you earlier. They wanted that money to grow so they get more tax. And right now, if I have $1 million in my portfolio, 370 grand of it's Uncle Sam's, and 630,000 is mine. If I want it all, that's what happens right there. So I don't have $1 million. That's after all the fluctuations and the ups and downs of the economy, right? If we go into averages, just since IRS was formed in 1913, 56%. Now we're not saying that taxes are going to go up to the averages, but history does tend to repeat itself, and if it does, 570,000 of my $1 million nest egg is chatteled, and Uncle Sam has control of that money. That's our business partners. When we feverishly go to put money over there, that's what we're agreeing to, is that we could be in this type of position. So we say it's tax deferred. We like to use the word tax postponed. Not only are you postponing the tax, but you're postponing the tax calculation. And your partner, business partner, Uncle Sam, will tell you when you get there, when you start to take the money out, what exactly that percentage is that he wants to take from you. Very risky position. I don't really trust what's going on in our government, so if there's a way in which to minimize that tax exposure, that's what we're trying to do, is look at those. So,
and one thing to piggyback off of that, sometimes I'll say that to a client or whatever it may be, and it might go a little bit over their head, so I'll give them the same thing of a mortgage example, right? And we'll say, okay, well, right now, Randy, if you came to me and said, Mike, I need a mortgage for this $1 million house, and I say, Randy, here you go, here's $1 million. AFN, we don't really need it right now, but at some point down the road, probably when you turn 72, we'll let you know what the rate, what the term is, nobody on earth is going to take that mortgage, but that's what a lot of us are doing with our retirement.
Absolutely. Any questions on that? We're not tax advisors, but we do like to just look at the reality of where we've been. You know, this is just history, and it's fun to look at. My note here is talking about Social Security, and it's very alarming. Well, with the RMD, okay, when you go to take that money right now, today, there's a tax that happens if you don't take it's about 4%, roughly 3.5%, 4%. You have $1 million this year, you got to take $35,000 out and pay whatever percentage income tax bracket you're in. If you don't take that, you fail to, you just don't do it, or you forget to. Does anybody know what that tax is called today? It's a very, very big tax. It's called the excise tax. Anybody know what that tax percentage is? 50%. 50%.
So, like you said, most of the reason is that a lot of these seniors just simply forget. So,
and there's no retro. They have to pay it. It's like a lien on the property. Now they have to take that. They have to. They're getting the tax. So just scary. The Social Security was enacted in 1936. The average life expectancy then was 62. You couldn't receive it until you were 65. You weren't even supposed to receive it. It was really an insurance against living too long. Now it's everybody's #1 retirement strategy. Like literally everyone's working, and half the people we do mortgages for, they don't have pensions anymore. Pensions are gone unless you're in a government job, and there's few of those. They're literally banking on this Social Security income to last forever. This is a very alarming statistic. The average life expectancy was 62. You couldn't receive it till 65. There were 43 workers for every recipient of Social Security paying into the system. 43 workers per recipient. Today, anybody know how many? 2 to 1. So I'm not saying either that Social Security is not going to be there for us. That's a different conversation. But it is alarming that the average life expectancy now has gone up, right? We don't die at 62 anymore. Average for female, 87. Male is 84. And if you're married at 65 together, there's a 25% chance that one lives to 97 and a 50% chance that one lives to 93. So we're just living a lot longer. Technology and advancements in medicine has done that for us, and it's a great thing, but it does really mean that we have to have other chips in the pile besides waiting on Social Security and putting all of our money into these tax-postponed, tax-deferred retirement vehicles, and we need to look at other options. Opportunity cost. Does anybody here know what opportunity cost is? Raise a hand. Raise your hand if you know what opportunity cost is. We got 1, 2, all right. It's a very important thing. Everything that you buy is financed. All opportunity cost says is that, if you buy cash, right, you are self-financing. That's what it's amounting to. You're putting all your chips into that investment, and therefore you don't have that $300,000 over here growing and compounding in another investment. And so then we just go into opportunity cost calculators a lot, and this is what we're doing in Florida we're the #1 branch in the country for AFN, small town, a lot bigger and better real estate all throughout the country, but we do things a little different, and it's working. Like we talk about opportunity costs. We ask realtors all the time, do you have opportunity cost conversations with your customers? And they say no. And we're like, wow, you need to, because when you do, you're going to see that instead of 1 real estate transaction, you'll probably do 2, 3, or 4, and it happens all the time. That's what we're doing different. And what else on opportunity cost, Mike?
I would go to that. For some reason, I had average annual cost of interest first, but obviously you can go into that.
So yeah, let's just dive into what it looks like. Opportunity cost. So again, everything that you buy is financed. You're either agreeing to pay interest, and by doing that, you're borrowing money and you can keep your money liquid and compounding and growing, or you're going to use your own money, self-finance it, and you lose the ability to earn interest and interest on interest. That's the opportunity cost. So a lot of people say, yeah, but interest rates are so high, we don't want to pay interest. I'm like, do you like to earn interest? And of course, everybody wants to earn interest. They just say, but we've landed in the market at 7.25% interest rates. It's just too high. You can't say high. You got to look at the math. Okay, say, can you afford the $2,046 a month payment? That's the question. Yeah, I make $120,000 a year, but I've got $800,000. I'm buying the house for $400,000 cash. I understand I just cut my nest egg in half, but I just don't want to pay that. It's 7.25% interest. I don't have to pay it. I can pay cash, so I'm going to. Is it a good financial decision? So we look at that 2046 over a 30-year period, and they pay back $736,000. But that's not all interest, right? That's what in interest? Principal and interest. So if you subtract out the principal, over that 30-year period, you paid back $436,000 of interest. That's the total interest expense for 30 years if you stay in the home, make the minimum payment. Okay? If you divide that by 30 years, everybody thinks in averages. When Verde sends a statement, they're probably sending an annual average, rate of return, what we do in the market for you. And averages, that math is 4.85%. It's not 7.25%. That's a very comforting conversation. We teach people on their calculator, realtors, every day when I teach my team. I say, go have a lunch and learn with the realtor and teach them how to calculate the annual average cost of interest. If you're not doing that, you're missing money, a lot of it. The total interest, you take a principal and interest calculator. If you don't have them, we'll send you ours on our app. Take the total payment, principal and interest, times 360, that's P&I. Subtract out the principal, that's interest. Divide it by 30, that's the annual average cost of interest. And then you divide it into the loan amount that you took. And that is truly the annual average cost of interest. It's no smoke and mirrors, it's just reality. It's not 7.25% that the note says, it's 4.85%. Okay?
Why is that so important right now when we're talking about sellers? Anybody? Yeah, and what is that tipping point for sellers? They're saying, hey, if rates go to that 5.5 mark, we're willing to give up our 3.5, our 3.75 to go to that 5.5. Well, when we start showing them the math, which is not, there's no emotion involved in this. This is numbers. This becomes a totally different conversation. If they say, yeah, if rates went to 5, I would do that. Well, then let's talk about it. Your real rate is at that 4.85, and obviously depending on what the actual rate is. So that's something that we'll illustrate to sellers as well.
So then we just ask somebody, and this again could be someone that's buying a house and they were going to buy cash, and we convince them, hey, why don't you put $100,000 down, keep 300 so you can have 300 in the market. We're going to have a new account now that's got 300 in it, and we're going to grow that over time with somebody like Verde. Or it could be that we wanted to win the bid. We like cash buyers too down in Florida. We'll win the bid with the cash and we come back. Realtors always say, hey, most of my buyers are cash. That was always how they get rid of the mortgage guy, right? They're almost all cash, and I deal with sellers. Well, great. Cash buyers, that's what I specialize in. And then your seller, when they sell the house, are they dying and going to the graveyard or something, or are they going to go buy another house? So then we start to talk about the value that we bring with our realtor partners with conversations about opportunity cost with cash buyers. You start with $300,000, so however you get there, we can take the cash out after closing, or they can just buy it with the $100,000 down. It's a $400,000 purchase, however you look at it. $300,000 is now in their pocket. If they bring it down to Verde Capital Management and they say, how much can I turn this into? Like, what is it? Anybody here have a financial advisor that they deal with at all? One? All right, we got one person with a financial advisor. That's good. Everybody should have one. Grab these guys' cards on the way out for sure. That'll be helpful.
What would you say
average,
is a fair rate of return?
Over time, like what would you expect the financial advisor to get you in the market over time? Absolutely. That's a good range. I mean, and historically, if you look back and Googled, the S&P or the Dow over the last 30 years, it's going to spit out numbers from 9% to 10.5%. But I think 8 to 12 is really what they should get you. So let's just say they don't get you 8, let's just say they get you 7. So you're borrowing at 7.25, and you're only getting investment returns of 7%. Most people say that's bad, right? Conventional thinking says you can't borrow money at 7.5 and invest it at 7 and come out ahead. And that's very wrong, obviously, because the left column is amortizing interest, the right is compounding. Compounding interest, the eighth wonder of the world, right? So here it is. Hit tab, $300,000. If you compound it at 7% in 30 years, turns into $2.3 million. Subtract out the $300,000 you started with, almost $2 million.
So then the question becomes, if there was a machine that you could put in $436,000 into, and it spits out $1.9 million, how many times over would we do that?
This is opportunity cost. Very easy to explain. We can use this spreadsheet if you'd like, but you can do it manually on a calculator. You know, you take 300,000 times 107% and hit equals, and then you hit equals, and you hit equals, and you do that 30 times. That's the slow way to get there, but I always do it that way because people are like, wow, they're watching it grow.
He's also doing the math in his head right
now. No. But then you hit it 30 times, and you're going to have 2.283 million, and of course you subtract 300,000, and this is the interest. So you spent that amount of interest on a mortgage so that your money doesn't lose out on opportunity and exposed to the opportunity cost, and you make $2 million. It's simple math, guys, and we have to have these conversations. If we truly do care about our customers, when we see them making cash transactions, again, it's great, but if it starts to burn in your soul and your being to wonder, how much money do you have? And if you think that they're buying $400,000 or $500,000 and they only have $700,000, $800,000, $1 million, they're making a big mistake financially. And the question is, with your own belief system, you know, I can't impose mine upon you, but I have to have a conversation with them, at least to ask them, can we look at the opportunity cost? And if there was a way to shift equity or reposition equity from over there to over here, would you be willing to have a conversation if it meant $500,000 to $1 million more in your portfolio in the next 15 to 20 years?
Stephanie Sacco, I'm going to put you on the spot because you do a great job with this. What is some of your scripting or something that you're saying to these clients? Because you did refer me a client, stopped them in their tracks from paying cash, which they shouldn't have, but it wasn't like, I don't know what you said because, again, it was 17 different people. So you said something that you're saying in your scripting or in your verbiage is really getting them to reach out and at least be open to hearing what we're saying. What do you feel like?
First of all, being a realtor advisor, right? So does this work?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
It's going into the, yes.
Being a realtor, I feel like I am an advisor, right? Like super important to everybody and what they're doing. And so I dig deep. How are you paying? How much are you putting down? How much do you have to put down, even if you're getting assistance, let's say? I work with a lot of people's parents. So the first thing I find out before we're looking at houses is, how are you paying? I don't dive right in right then. You're not going to convince somebody not to pay cash for a house till they want to buy the house, okay? So you're like, okay, you're going to pay cash. And I'm always like, we're going to talk about that later because clearly you're not really sure which path we're going to take, but watch. And so I kind of have it in their head like, wait, why wouldn't you want me to pay cash? And then eventually when we get to the time where we're paying cash, I'm like, you understand that once you take your money, and I do it very simply because I don't quite know how to do this. Once you take your money and you put it in your house, it's not growing, it's not doing anything. It's sitting there. It's doing nothing. Your money's doing nothing, right? And then they're kind of looking at me. I'm like, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to get you connected to some professionals that if you decide, we can take that money and we can have it grow and maybe have a couple extra million at the end instead of throwing it in the house. And then they just stare at me and I'm like, yeah, so let's go look at the house. Let's write the offer. Let's chat with the professional. And they're always like, wait, what's their name? Wait, what? And they want to talk about it because it's the truth, right? So because I understand the truth of it, it just becomes natural for me. Oh, you're paying cash? Would you rather have millions of dollars? Would you rather your money grow or would you rather your money sit? I have people that say they want to pay off I'm going to pay off this balance. I'm going to pay it off. I'm like, okay, but or you could invest it and you could quadruple it and then just pay a little bit every month and you know you already make like $500,000 a year. So what are you talking about? So that's kind of what I do.
That's awesome.
Did you record our belt?
That's where it's liquid, right? Because when you dump it into the real estate, it's not liquid necessarily. I mean, you can't get back to that equity and put it in your pocket, especially if you forgot to pay the Lowe's payment last month on your $10 credit card and you have $500,000 locked up of equity. It's no longer liquid. You can't even come to a lender and get access to your equity anymore. Literally, at that point, the only way to get it is to sell. So, or wait 2 years until your credit's back up and you don't have a 30-day late payment in the last 12 or 24 months on your credit.
Another thing we love is cash value life insurance, Vlad. To the point of if that money's in the home, like Rob said, it's stuck. But if it's in an IUL, maybe, right? I can borrow that money, correct me if I'm wrong, I can borrow that money, still allow it to participate in the market, and I'm not going through any refinance process. It's not a 30-day process for me to get that money. Am I contractually guaranteed that money? If it's in an IUL?
Your accumulation cash value, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So my point is that when we're putting the money in the house, it is the hardest place to get that money out. To his point, we get a 30-day late on a credit card because we forgot about it. Now we don't qualify for a refinance, and we can't tap that $500,000.
It's a very bad savings account, that's all.
There you go.
It's not safe, it's not liquid, it earns a 0% rate of return, period. Market's gonna go up and down in the value of the home, whether you got it maxed out on financing or not. 0% is what you earn on the money that's sitting there. So, questions at all before we get moving? Because I know we want to get into and we're going to go into a product that's similar to cash value life insurance in regards to, but there's no market demands, and it grows at 8%, compounds tax-free, and it's 100% accessible and liquid within 48 to 72 hours, and that's the home equity conversion mortgage. We won't go into the financial calculator for investment properties today, just for a matter of time. But we oftentimes in our presentation will show this $300,000. Maybe it's with the financial advisor. Maybe again it's buying $300,000 properties, $100,000 down each, mortgages for $200,000 on each of those. And instead of doing one $400,000 sale as a realtor, you do the $400,000 sale. You show them to take the $300,000 out and buy the $300,000 investment properties. You just did an extra $1 million in sales. Again, like Mike said, we don't do that out of greediness. Just because we want to make $30,000, $60,000 on real estate transactions, that does not get blessed. If you truly care about the customer and their future and their retirement years, then you have that conversation and everything comes out in the wash. They're going to make a lot more money, you are too, and everybody wins. Cool? All right. Where are we going
For the
next?
investment property calculators, I will record a short one and I'll email it to everybody, because that's a good one to have. And if you ever have a listing, it literally takes us 3 minutes to put that together for you.
We won't dive into this one either, but does anybody deal with self-directed IRAs, self-directing and real estate purchases in a retirement account, such as an IRA, a Roth, 401k? Yeah. You do. So you have a self-directed IRA? Wow, what do you invest in? What do you use? I mean, obviously you can invest in what? Okay, so you choose stocks and things of that nature. Do you know what else you can invest in? Yeah, not just REITs, but real estate, rental properties.
Could buy a racehorse like Rob.
Yeah, I own a racehorse in my IRA. Not a good investment, but you know, own a bunch of crypto, not really good either. I FOMO'd in, but real estate, right? You're realtors, and I'm shocked, and you're not the exception here. Every time I do this, I'm like, does anybody? And they don't. Self-directed IRA, there's a really great opportunity there for your loved ones, and maybe they want to be in the market, and stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, of course they need to be. They need to talk to somebody like the team here at Verde to help them and to diversify and to make money over time. A professional. Some people will do it themselves, but the self-directing isn't so much about just being able to choose your investments. It's really to have another asset class that is what they call alternative investments. And that is real estate, the biggest that you'll see people investing in. And it can be partnerships with you. You may say, hey, I only got 150 and my aunt's got 150 in her IRA, and we can self-direct both of those, and each of us has a 50% ownership in this little rental property that's bringing in $2,400 a month. That's fine, you can do that. You can do private money loans. We do a lot of that, where investors are getting 10%. Very easy to understand investment. It's a $400,000 house in Florida. Some dude just bought it for $400,000, put down $250,000. And he's either got bad credit, if he credits somewhere along the way, maybe came out of a bankruptcy that's not seasoned. He's got the financial ability to pay $2,000 a month, $1,000, whatever, that's no problem. Or he's a self-employed person, or she, and they just don't show all of their income, so they have to go to the private market for mortgages because institutional lending isn't available. And so that's where a private investor comes in and puts down their 150, puts a first lien position on the property, and collects 10% interest on that investment. Question?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Are there options for avoiding capital gains by using the self-directed to buy into the REITs?
You'd have to talk to an accountant about that, but I could tell you this much.
taxes.
Yeah, I mean, it is an IRA, so it serves almost like a 1031 exchange, right? Without having to do that, because it is one. It's an investment vehicle that you can buy and sell the real estate. Every bit of the rent has to go into that investment. And then when you sell, the profits go back in and it defers the tax. That's all, without having to go through all the headache of is it a like-kind exchange and all of those things that you have to deal with on 1031 exchanges. So, moral of the story is learn about it, right? If you want to do the best possible job for your customers, you should understand self-directing, and you may want to have that conversation and ask them, hey, have you considered cash flow properties as part of a diversified retirement strategy? And if they say yes, and they have $1 million in their portfolio, and they may say, hey, I'd like to self-direct a half of that. We'll keep a half with our advisor, but we want to put maybe $500,000 into a couple real estate transactions and see what that looks like over 10 and 15 years. It's very predictable, very easy to understand, especially when they have you all, right? That's on their own, maybe not, but they need somebody like you, a coach, a wealth coach that says, hey, we can help you buy a couple pieces of property and make sure that, I mean, it's almost impossible to not get 12% internal rate of return on investment properties in Florida. So they can buy in Florida. I mean, I'm sure you got a great rental property market here too, but if not, a lot of people are buying in Florida from Michigan, right? Get with the KW, over in Ocala or Gainesville and say, hey, let me refer some customers your way. We're sort of putting this new strategy together and getting people to invest a little more. So very powerful stuff.
Absolutely. One thing I'll add, which he might have already said, the reason that we're constantly talking about opportunity cost and all of these things is that Rob got me into a group called Circle of Wealth, which is, 1,000 plus advisors, but 90% of what they talk about is mortgages. And why? When the main thing that, and now Rob's got it in my brain, Vlad, you've definitely heard it from me, Stephanie, you've heard it from me, but the number one place that people lose money unknowingly and unnecessarily is in how they acquire real estate or how they pay for their mortgage.
If you want to write this one down, guys, this is where I have mine. It's NuView, N-U-V-I-E-W. Yeah, don't buy a racehorse. NuView Trust. If you just Google NuView, N-U-V-I-E-W Trust, I'm going to do it right now, and this is what you'll come up with is their little page, the IRA custodian. You can go to their website, and they got offices here in Chicago, Miami, Orlando. But it's a great, and they probably do it here too. I'm sure Verdi can teach you all about self-directing, and they have different custodians, I'm sure, that handle those investments when you want to go into real estate and private mortgages or new business startups for your family members to help fund them. But this is where you go and then learn. You can go into this portal here, and let's see, probably real estate investments, individual investors. Here you go, click on individual investors, private lending, real estate. Click on real estate and watch these little videos. 7 ways to invest in real estate with partnerships, 5 benefits of owning real estate inside your IRA. Get comfortable with that. And then call me. I'm going to leave some business cards. If you have questions, call us. We're always available to talk about these and give you what we know anyhow. We don't know everything, but we try to know a lot. So let me X out of that. All right, so where are we going, Mike? We want to talk about the smartest way to own your home free and clear. Has anybody here ever heard of sequence of returns risk? Sequence of returns risk, all right, of course, Vlad. Or order of returns risk, right? And of course, these guys here, they specialize in understanding that because it's the number one reason people run out of money in retirement. Too many negatives in the early years of retirement, or as you're approaching retiring, you might be working longer. That's typically what it amounts to. Or you're going to have to pull a lot less money out of those investments. We're in 2 phases of life, right? You have your accumulation, where right now a lot of us are trying to stacking our chips and putting it into real estate, putting it into the stock market, putting it into mutual funds and things like that to grow wealth. And eventually we're going to start taking money out and living on that money. And the goal is that we can pull X amount of dollars for a certain amount of time so we never run out of money. That's the idea, right? You don't over withdraw. Sequence of returns is that if you're pulling money out of an account and that money drops in value, that account drops in value, and you pull money again that year because you need the 30 grand on top of your Social Security to live the quality of life you want to live. Huh? Oh, I didn't even pull it up there. I'm sorry. Let's see. Sequence of returns. Here it is. So if you're pulling money, and I'm going to explain the numbers here in just a second, but too many pulls, distributions off of an account that is going down in value, it's almost like compounding. It's reverse compounding. So when money grows and the interest earns interest, and it grows again and interest earn interest, that's the eighth wonder of the world, the compounding interest. This is like negative compounding. You're taking money out. So this screen just shows you a very basic illustration of how sequence of returns works. Started with $1 million at 65 in both columns. There's just a random order of returns in the left column till 90 years old, 25 years of retirement. Add them all together, divide by 25, you get 7% average annual. Negative 25 at the bottom and the negative 14 is at the top. All we've done is flip-flop the order of returns, and you end up with the exact same amount of money. Doesn't matter. You can, as long as it's the same returns in each column, scramble them up however you want, you're always going to get with the same bottom line return, okay, the same number. The problem is that if you're in retirement now in 65 and you need $50,000 a year, you're going to pull 50 grand off your million, you're a millionaire, right? You're like, oh, I can pull 50 grand. I mean, I've got $1 million. Well, what happens, each of these columns are going to be severely different. In the left column at 83 years old, you have $3.8 million. Flip-flop their order of returns at 83, broke. Zero. That's sequence of returns risk. You got to understand how it works because it'll apply to every one of you in the room. This is our portfolio. This is why you have to have somebody like Carl's group. They help prevent this. And so what happens is if there are places on these market down years that you can pull, when its market's down, you don't want to take 50 grand off of 700. $1 million just went down. You want to allow that money to recover and then pull it. Where do you pull it from? In 2012, FINRA and some pretty smart people at the American College of Financial Services, as well as Texas Tech University, did a study. And they said there is a thing called a reverse mortgage, a home equity conversion mortgage. HECM, we call it. You get very comfortable with that. It'll be the best thing in your real estate business. The HECM for Purchase program. And so they said, if you have this line of credit that we can pull from, they coined it a coordinated withdrawal strategy. And they said, if the market's down and you are in the distribution phase of your retirement, instead of pulling from there, you pull from the line of credit, allowing the portfolio to recover. And if you do so, you're going to have 8 times greater chance of financial success in retirement. 8 times less likelihood of running out of money. That's the number one fear people have. They fear it more than death itself. Sequence of returns risk. And we have the best tool in our industry. Anybody ever dealt with the HECM for Purchase? HECM for Purchase? No? It was given to you, the real estate community, literally to you in 2009 under the Home Ownership and Economic Recovery Act, 2009, 14 years ago. It's the number one tool I'm using with my team in Florida right now. And you should be doing the same because it is powerful. Let's go for a tour.
And full disclosure, this is not the Tom Selleck, Fonzie, that whole stigma, right, of the reverse mortgages. When now, we've sat with Carl, we've sat with Cindy, we've sat with hundreds of advisors, when it's explained correctly and it's positioned as a retirement tool, unless somebody, I'm not saying that we don't diversify, I just haven't seen something as strong as this. And especially to supplement what's already in place. You already have a strong portfolio. This is only gonna supplement.
So with $11 trillion, and it's more like 12 now in real estate equity, this is sort of a snapshot of a typical retiree, of the retiree community. 5 trillion in 401ks, 8 in IRAs, and 12 trillion dollars in housing wealth or home equity. We need to start looking at this as holistic, right? We have financial planners that say they're holistic, but then they don't understand at all about how this product works. Carl's studying it right now. That's why I think we're here, really, is he's allowed us to speak with his whole team, and he said, I want to make sure that everybody understands this because I see value in it. It helps our customers. We can't say we're fiduciary and holistic if we don't have housing wealth conversations. And so we go to the HECM program, which is, where is it at? Sorry, not so good getting between these screens here. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to take a January 1st, 1958. To make it easy, I want to just drive it free and clear property, okay? We'll go to the purchase here in just a second. $600,000 value, they have no mortgage on the property, and we say there's a better way to do this. Let's put a mortgage on it, and what happens is, instead of owing zero, you're going to owe $20,000. Whew, that's a heartburn, you know? It's $20,000 in closing costs. Nobody likes that conversation. Is that even worth it? That sounds like a scam for sure. Plus, they call it a reverse mortgage. Yeah, that's where the thing where they take the house and all of that. Yeah, we just want to take your house from you. That's why we're doing this. So, but what it does instead is it gives you access to $175,000 of those trapped $600,000. Okay? And it makes it liquid. And so what happens over time, I'm going to zoom in for some of you at the back. Let's see if this will work. Is that a little better? So, 1 year later, if you hadn't touched that line of credit that had 175 in it, it now has $190,865. It just went up $15,865. But so did your loan balance, right? The loan balance went from 20 grand to 21.8, went up 1,800. So one went up 15,000 and one went up 1,800. Let's carry that forward some. So the interest rate that applies to the loan balance is the exact same interest that applies to the line of credit. Today is about 8%. Savings account with an 8% interest rate, compounding interest on interest. Let's take it out 10 years.
Compounding monthly.
Yeah, it's compounding monthly, but annually 8%.
Yeah.
So 77 years old, now instead of 175 in the line of credit, 454,000. Loan balance went up from 20 grand to 51, so it went up 31,000 in a 11-year period. Let's go out another year. Let's see. There you go, 495. We started at 175. We literally went up 320,000? Yeah. 320 grand for the loan balance going up 36,000. If there was a machine that you can put 36 grand in and it spit out $320,000 cash, tax-free.
Tax-free.
Would you put that in? You know, so yes, the heartburn is that loan balance, but what happens is over time, people don't realize at 78, at 80, at 81, 82, 83, when retirement risks that are numerous start to present themselves, rear their ugly heads, how much of a lifesaver having that is. Could be a free and clear property for $1 million, of course. You want to come down to us at 83 years old? Because I get this all the time. And they're trying to figure this math out at 83, 84, 86. Carl was asking me earlier, asked why would somebody not elect to just wait and do it in the future? One of the biggest reasons I mentioned to him, cognitive issues. They have troubles at 62, 65 years old understanding how this works. And you guys will too. It's going to take sitting down 2 or 3 times. You'll understand it a lot better. At 84, 85, someone hopefully is just telling them that they have to do it. But oftentimes they won't out of fear, right? So, but 765,000. So what does that mean? Well, that means everything. That means that you can go into this amortization schedule and at any time, oopsie, sorry. Let me scroll back down here. Get a little more of that. All right. This is just a different view, right? There's your line of credit. Far right is your loan balance. Net equity is the far right. If you sold the house, that's what you get, right? If they sold the house and didn't touch this line of credit at 70 years old, you know, they had 250 grand available, but they hadn't even touched it yet. They only owe 28 grand. If they had, beginning of the year, said, I need a new roof, and it's $20,000, they'd pull 20,000 from this. It'd go from 247 down to what, 227? Loan balance would go from 28 to 48,000. That's how it works. You're your own bank. You don't have to call anyone to ask for permission. Pick up the phone, 48 hours later, $20,000 shifted from one column to the next.
No refinance, no health qualification.
Yeah, no credit qualification. You already qualified 4 years earlier. You never have to requalify again. That money is liquid. You have it at any time you want it. You want the full 247? This goes to zero. This goes up by 247 grand. 270,000 is what you owe then. Sell the house for 700, pay it off, and there's 400 grand instead of 670, whatever the math is. Understand this. This is powerful. And you'll see the purchase, it even gets more powerful. Any questions on that? What a lot of people will do is they'll get later in retirement, they'll say, okay, I just lost my husband or I lost my wife. Now I'm 80. I got $589,000 in here. What can I do with it? Well, you can do anything. Of course, you can take it in full or in part without any questions asked. Doesn't matter what the market, doesn't matter if it's a pandemic and the COVID, doesn't matter if it's the war. 48 to 72 hours, it's insured by HUD, guaranteed contractually, not market-driven performance. Now, they say, well, I just need to replace some income. I need $50,000 a year. No problem. Let's take 50 grand. Conventional thinking says if I take 50,000 off of 500 grand, let's take 58. That means it's out in 10 years, right? Take 58,000 off of 580. It's gone in 10 years. Safe to say? Not if that unused portion is growing at 8%, it's not. Watch this. At 80 years old, 85, 90, 90 years old, instead of being out, instead of this being 0, I got 290 still. Let's keep on going. 95, still have 68 grand. 96 years old, 30 years later, I still got 11 grand. I lived the last 20 some odd years of my life getting $58,000 a year tax-free, paid 0 to Uncle Sam on it. Didn't affect my Social Security taxation. $58,000 per year. Watch this. It went from 526 to 511. So you're telling me you pulled 58 grand out of an account that only dropped from 526 to 511. It went down what, Mike? What's the math there? 15,000? So you pulled 58, but the account value only dropped 15,000. Is that efficient? Yeah. Very. This is the big bad reverse mortgage that everybody's saying, oh, those are bad, right? Oh, never going to do that. Why? Why? Right. But the kids shouldn't say it's bad. Why wouldn't you want that? I want that from my parents. Because I can still control everything in the estate. I got mom's control. I mean, if she starts to lose control, I can have somebody get $58,000 a month, or $58,000 a year, 4 grand, 5 grand a month. Have somebody, she doesn't have to move into my basement. We can have care for her. Powerful stuff. We got to understand how it works. One of the fun things Mike always likes me to point out is, let's just pretend that the values, what happens if the real estate doesn't go up in value like this, right? There's certainly this blue line at the top. This is the value. I mean, what happens to all of these, we started to pull the 58 grand a year, so the line of credit's dropping, or I'm sorry, that's the net equity. Line of credit's dropping, and the loan balance was way down here, remember? Now it's starting to go up significantly, because every time we took 58, it just added 58. This is your loan balance, At this line here, that's 700 grand. If they sold the house, they owe $700,000. The house value is close to, probably $1.25 million. So there's still $500,000 equity there. They sell the house, pay off the $700,000, and walk away with the $500,000 that goes to the estate or the heirs. What happens if the values don't continue to rise? We're showing 4% appreciation. Let's pretend they drop 4% a year starting today.
For all the people that always say, oh, the market's going to crash.
Here it comes, baby. Go. We're finally going to crash it. Now look. Every year, $50,000, $58,000. Nothing changed. Let's go back up to the graph. It's easier to see. You're pulling $58,000 off a house here. It's worth whatever, a couple hundred grand, a few hundred grand. Every year you just continue to get $58,000. They can't say no. Contractually guaranteed.
It'll grow irregardless of the value of the home and irregardless of the loan balance.
Let me make it simpler. I'm going to take all those distributions out and watch this and maybe have a little bit better effect. Let's not take the 58 grand. Let's carry the 0 down. So this is about halfway point, right? This is a house that's worth $300,000 with a line of credit worth $750,000 on it.
So you could sell, if you sold the home, you're getting your 300 minus.
Let's just say at 80 years old, you have a health issue. If they want to sell the house and it had dropped 4% a year, every year starting today, the house would only be worth $338,000. They sell it, they pay off that 67 because that loan balance grew, just the interest only on it. We didn't take anything, just the interest started at 20 grand. 14 years later is now 67,000. Sell the house, pay off the loan, net 271. Or stay in the home. 48 hours later, you can put 589,000 tax-free into your account. What happens then? This balance grows up. Boom, they end up owing 589 plus 67, and you sit there owing, what is that, $650,000 roughly on a home that's only worth 300 grand?
And where that gets super powerful is that money's been extracted, but let's say, because Rob had a scenario
they
like
die
this.
2 months after they take the money.
Yeah, they die 2 months after they take it. Well, they've extracted the 589, but now the heirs get to come in and say, all right, we either are walking away completely non-recourse, because this is backed by FHA. They can buy the home at 95% of current market value.
95% of that. So this could be in the top drawer of grandma's house still, or she gave it to you and said, here you go, kid, I wanted you to have it because the statement said I can give 589 grand out of here. And I know that my realtor friend just said the house is only worth 350 grand. If I died, of course I'm going to take the money, give it to you, because there's no ramifications to the estate. There's no taxation. In our world, they call that a short sale, right? We owe 500 grand if you took the money. Again, we still haven't taken it. Let's take it just so you can see, make a little more sense for you. Let's take the money. So it's going to take the money from the whatever the balance was the year prior. So at 80 years old, they had 540 grand at 79. So we want $540,000. Boom, one-time shot, recalculate it. Line of credit's going to go down to $800. Loan balance went from 60 grand to 650,000. Let's see what it looks like on the cool page here. Boom. And there it is. Whew. Now they owe that. $650,000 on a home, and they pass away. The kids got all the money in their pocket. If they wanted to buy the house back from the estate, they can do so with that big pile of cash, the $550,000 cash, and buy it for basically, what, 320 grand, 315, 95% of 338, whatever it appraises for. A lot of shocked looks in there. I mean, isn't that crazy? Who's got questions? Is that a lot? Are you understanding it?
All right.
A little bit? It takes time. It does take time, but know that you need to understand it. Let's go into the reverse for purchase, 2009 Home Ownership and Economic Recovery Act. The best thing that was ever given to the real estate community that I've seen. And I remember waiting for it, man. I was doing a lot of reverses back then. And what we were doing is we were doing them in the villages. And so they were moving from Michigan, they were moving from everywhere. And they would buy, and they'd do a mortgage. And then after closing, it's 2007, 2006, 7, 8. After closing, we would do another mortgage, and we'd do the reverse mortgage. So we'd pay off the existing mortgage with the reverse. So we were double dipping, right? We were doing a conventional loan. And so CFPB really didn't like that. They said, hey, this is too much closing costs on the borrower. Why can't we come up with this reverse mortgage? It's been around since 1986. We've now studied it more and see that it's a very viable solution for retirement planning. Why don't we have the reverse for purchase program? And this is what they did. It came over on the fax machine. I'll never forget it. I usually bring in the little FHA HUD letter because it has more effect. But you go with the Heck'em for purchase. Say, hey, I'm buying a house, right? $600,000.
So when most people are right sizing, a lot of that, oh, I'm going to sell my house, go pay off cash. I don't want, or pay cash for the house. I don't want any debt. We understand the thinking is an emotional thought, but let's see what happens when we do it this way.
And let's make them 68 years old for fun. That's fine. Select Florida. Here we go. So we're buying a house with a voluntary mortgage payment program. It's a $600,000 home. I need to change the closing costs a little bit here. Hold on. Customize fees. And there's nobody that's done a reverse for purchase in here. Is that right? Anybody has done one? No, not one. All right, here we go.
Well, Stephanie, you lined some up, but we had what do you call it? We put them on the heat burner for later. No, he was asking who's done a HECM for purchase, and obviously you brought some to the table that are still in the works.
We still have more to do though.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to head out.
All right, I'll call you later. Thank you, Bella.
See you, Stephanie.
I'll call you. Oh, you're staying? Okay, you rock. She works harder than you, Stefan.
Sorry, guys. All right, so now, yeah, go ahead.
I saw on the previous screen 2.5% margin. What was
Yeah, well, that's the interest rate. So it's off of a margin. Add the margin in the index, somewhere around high sevens, close to 8%. That's what we're selling right now is the 2.5s. So here we go. So check this out. You buying a $600,000 home with $405,000 out of pocket. So you're taking a cash buyer as a realtor that says, hey, I can only spend $400, and you say, why don't we go with the voluntary mortgage payment? We can go with the $600,000. You are going to owe the difference, but there's no payment on the difference. Let's see how this looks over time. So the red line, this is just the mortgage. So if you don't make any payments at all, red line's going up, similar to the green line earlier with the line of credit growing. This is the line of credit. This is the fully extended line of credit. So you bought a house for $600, you put down $400, and we took the line of credit, fully extended it so we can give that $200 to the seller, and plus your $400 to the seller. They got $600,000 for the house. Everybody follow me there? Now, we're going to go ahead and make voluntary payments. Say, hey, how much can you spend? I've got all kinds of money. I can spend $2,000 a month. I don't care. Let's see what happens if you apply. You don't have to make a payment. We saw what that looks like. Oopsie. And there's an amortization schedule, so you can just see over time it's, same thing. There is no line of credit. But we're going to go ahead and make that voluntary payment. We're going to say partial payments. I want to start paying in, let's say right away. Let's wait 2 months. Let's buy it, wait 3 months. Let the dust settle. We'll start making and you don't have to, the customer doesn't have to choose this up front or anything like that. So after 3 months of living in the home, they say, I'm going to just start making a voluntary payment of $2,000. Instead of like a regular mortgage, every time they make that $2,000 payment, it's gone forever. We talked about that obviously a lot today. This one here, every $2,000 payment that they make goes to cancel out interest on that loan balance growth, that red line that was going up, and dollar for dollar goes into the growing line of credit and compounds at 8%. Well, watch this. They used a reverse mortgage to pay their house off in 68 till 83 years old. Not only is the house paid off at 83, oopsie, they have in an account with $658,720 tax-free available to them. Use it however you want. Question.
They took the equity that they built in the reverse mortgage and invested it into a compound building, or
They didn't do anything. They haven't taken any money out. All they did is made the payment. This is all just a line of credit. That's all that is. Let me show you. So, line of credit started at zero. Every time they were making voluntary payments of $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year, and every time they did, money went into the line of credit, dollar for dollar plus interest. So after 10 years, 12 years, paying $24,000 a year, they've got $460,000 available to their name. It's a line of credit and availability, access to money. They haven't taken the money out. Yes, they could take $400,000 out then. Now, at 80 years old, they have $460,400 in the account. They can take it all, and their loan balance would therefore go up tremendously. It doesn't show on here what the loan balance is. I have to print, and it shows other numbers. Well, I can go to this and just show you here. At 80 years old, well, the thing is basically paid off. Yeah, it's not at 80.
$150.
No, at 80 years old, they owe $65,000. At 83, it's paid down. They paid it all the way down to $1,000. You have to keep a $1,000 loan balance in order for the money machine to stay on. So keep in mind what's going on here, guys. At 80 years old, or 83, it's paid off. The house is paid down to zero. And look what's happening in this line of credit. If they don't touch that line of credit, they haven't put in any more money. 7-Eleven the following year. It just went up 40 some odd thousand dollars, $50,000. Goes from a 7-Eleven to 767, 800 grand. They're 86 years old with almost $1 million liquid tax-free in their account that they have access to if they need it. And then again, as we looked at, you can convert the line of credit. You can say, hey, at 84 years old, I want to convert, line of credit conversion, and I want it to start paying me. I'm writing a book right now called Now the House Pays You, and this is it. You say, all right, line of credit conversion. I want to start receiving payments in, say, 14 years, and I want to see how much it'll pay me for the rest of my life. We call this tenure, T-E-N-U-R-E, tenure. Payments for life, and this is what it shows. That line of credit at year 14, the house was paid almost all the way down. Not all the way down yet, but close. We were a year away from paying it off, but we stopped making the payment. Said, all right, now I want it to pay me. And this is what's going on behind the scenes. That loan balance is growing because we are depositing into that client's account $4,840 every month tax-free for the rest of their life. It states on the note until they're 150 years old.
They can't outlive the house. They can't outlive the payment.
$58,000 per year. If we scroll down, they'll go to 100, they'll go to 150. They can never outlive that money. These are, and I know we're sort of going past on time. We want to be respectful and cut it off today at 3. But this is the Heckham for purchase, and I hope you see an opportunity in it. I mean, you guys should be talking about the voluntary mortgage payment. Don't ever say reverse. If we can show you a growing line of credit that can not only help pay your house off quicker, but put you in a huge position of liquidity so that 15, 20 years later, you have $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 more liquid and tax-free funds available to you in a tax-free bucket of money. Would you like to see how that works? Nobody wants a reverse mortgage, but everybody wants to increase their cash flow, reduce their expenses and risks in retirement, improve their liquidity, buzzword, right? Liquidity, and even add new investable dollars back into the retirement savings. We got the solution right here. You were given it in 2009. You have to understand how it works. So I would say the other thing is just the downsize strategy. We see a lot of times in Florida, he dies and she lost the big pension. $3,000 a month of income goes away, $3,500. She's strapped. She didn't even like the house in the get-go. They bought it 5 years ago. Took a 30-year mortgage on it. Owes $280,000 or $350,000 on the house. It's only worth $550,000. So she sells it. She's going to walk with $200,000. She's 75 years old. We say, hey, there's other ways to do it. You don't have to settle for a $200,000 home if you don't want a payment. If there was a proven resource that allowed you to increase your cash flow, reduce your expenses and risks, improve your liquidity, and even add new investable dollars back into your retirement savings, Ms. Jones, would you like to see how it works? Or those 4 things, but it possibly involves you moving into your next, last, and best home. Would you like to see how it works? And she usually says yes, oftentimes crying, because she's stressed. The $1,800 a month payment that she's 5 years into, she's got 25 years left, she's 75, she's going to pay till she's 100. How do you get rid of that? Very easily. We show her the Heckham for Purchase program. Here's what we do. We say, hey, instead of $600,000, let's go buy you a house for $350,000. I'm only going to net $200,000. That's fine. Oopsie daisy. Darn it, locked me out of there. Hold on one second. Let's make her 75 years old. Heckham for Purchase. And we're going to say $350,000. $350,000. Now keep in mind, she's paying $1,500 a month, right? On her current home. You're going to help her sell it. She thinks she has to stay. No, you're going to sell the house, you're going to list it, sell it, and this is what she's going to get. Peace of mind, increased her cash flow, took her stress off the table. I'm just going to put Florida for my software.
While he's pulling that up, thank you, Vlad. So this is for homeowners 62, or if they're buying a house 62 and up. We do have a product that goes down to 55. Vlad, any
goes up to $4 million. Heckham is $1,089,200. You should know that number, right? It's not for little cheap homes. This isn't for, just so you guys know, the number one demographic that uses this program, they call them the mass affluent. They have 75, they're retired, they make $75,000 a year or more in fixed income that'll never run out, and they have $500,000 to $1.5 million in their portfolio. Number one demographic using reverses. Not the little people who just lost the spouse that can't afford. They are wealthier, wealth-minded retirees that say, I'd be foolish to not have this liquidity cash flow in my retirement plan. So this is the lady that is buying the 400, and you showed her a solution. Nobody else showed her. She netted 200 grand. She had a savings account maybe with a little bit of money, or maybe she was going to net 250. You showed her, no, you can have 350. And we're going to take out of your 250, we're going to use $224,000. You no longer have to make a $1,500, $1,800 a month payment any longer. It's over. No more 25 years. Take 18,000 a year times 25. It's a lot of, she's paying $400,000 of interest. See you, Tony. Thanks, buddy. Safe travels.
How you getting?
So he's got a lift.
Okay.
So what they do, this changes somebody's life, right? You are the tool for somebody to have peace of mind that says, hey, we right-sized your retirement. We got you out of that $1,500 a month payment. No longer have to worry about $18,000 a year, increasing your cash flow. Maybe she did net 250 grand from the sale and put the other 25,000 in the retirement account. Took a lot of risks off the table because, again, she might say, hey, I couldn't afford the $1,500, but I can afford $750 a month. Make partial payments then. You take partial payment of $750, start making payments right away. Instead of $1,500, how about we just pay $750 a month voluntarily? The money's not gone forever. We're putting it into a savings account that compounds at 8%. This is what happens for her. When she's 85, 86, 87, she's got $150, close to $200,000. It's long-term care insurance that she couldn't afford. It gives her income in the future if she needs it. It allows her to give an early inheritance and say, hey, this Christmas, I want to give $200,000. I got 2 grandkids. I want to give them $100,000 each. She takes that red line and ends up putting 200 grand on top of it. Says, here you go, kids. I want to see you get the home instead of wait until I pass away. A lot of opportunities. We can go on all afternoon, but I think that's pretty much it. I think we've taxed you all today, and boy, I appreciate you staying. You're the last of the Mohicans, so thank you so much. And we've got a mastermind, right? So if you go to Housing Wealth Mastermind.com, we're going to go into concepts once a month at least. We're going to be starting right before the holidays, so register there. It's a cheesy little sign-up form. Just put your name and email address. HousingWealthMastermind.com, and hang with us. We'd love to do anything we can. If it's not this stuff and you got a manufactured home loan or a VA loan, zero down, first-time home buyers, down payment assistance, we do all of that, right? We are looking for your support. You know, Mike and I joined forces, and you guys sort of bring the goods, and so we don't want to just ask. We want to, hopefully, did you find this valuable? Was it good information? Okay, good, awesome.
So we found it valuable. All right. Great job, Rob.
Thanks, buddy. Cool. Well, let's connect. Let's stay in touch for sure. I'll give you one of my cards at each table, and Mike and I really value you guys, and anything we can do to help you, just let us know.
Vlad doesn't want
Awesome.
my business card.
You're
He has
welcome.
A stack of 10,000 of them.
Awesome.
Sam,
You're welcome.
You get one, even though